Corin's being kind of a bitch, so I'll do it.
Hey everyone, I am here with Jason from Iridium Studios. You are the Supreme Overlord as well as lead game designer of There Came an Echo.
I prefer Supreme Overlord, but whatever you want to call me is fine.
Okay, Supreme Overlord. Can you tell us about There Came an Echo?
I can. There Came an Echo is a voice-controlled, real-time strategy game with a very heavy narrative focus. So it's really about the story and character development. But a lot of people want to know about the voice commands. How does that work? You command your units using commands like all units move to Alpha 4, shields up, fire at will, take cover on the left, things like that. And it really creates a really interesting dynamic between the player and the characters. It really makes you care for them. They banter back to you, they sass you, they ask you questions that you can answer at times. It creates a really engaging experience.
Like, I was noticing as you were playing that it's more than just like saying the character and saying where they're going. You can actually make very complex sentences where you're saying, okay, these two characters, but not this character. Like, what are some of the complex things? Like, I know there's also like a mark. You can set up like different things going into it.
Right, so you can call out any combination of these soldiers. You can say everyone but, or just list them out by name. You can also use the mark system where you can queue up a bunch of different commands or sequences using on my mark, and then they'll not execute them then, but then in timing sensitive situations you can say mark or go, and all will be executed simultaneously.
Race to Charlie 3, Miranda Corin to Charlie 1.
There's also this other system we have in place called aliasing, where if you can't remember these commands, because you're right, they are fairly complex,
right,
and you don't necessarily remember the way that the game wanted you to phrase them, you can overwrite any existing command in the game with whatever you want. So if you don't want to call the main character Corin, you can call him Rob. If you don't want to say fire, you can say light him up, or whatever you want, like literally anything. Quotes from movies, I've done lyrics from The Lion King, I mean, anything.
Make it so.
Another thing about the game is that you have a very interesting system, a shield system, but also something that connects with the guns itself. Can you talk about that?
Right, so in the game, it's a slight sci-fi futuristic setting. So they have these guns that can kind of transform into 5 different types. And these all have, there's a sniper rifle type gun and a rapid fire gun and a base gun, things like that. But everything's energy based. So your ammo is in fact energy, and you wear this, the characters wear this, this kind of backpack that has their total energy reserves. And so if you use a gun that's very powerful, it's going to use a lot of energy, a lot of ammo from your backpack, but at the same time your shields are based on that same energy. So if you go all out on offense, your shields are going to be drastically weakened, and that can cause issues as well. So the best way to go about it is to have some players or some of your units act as essentially defensive tanks, and others go and switch to more powerful weapons and use tactics and things like that to bring down the enemy as quickly as possible.
How many characters so far can you control at a time?
Your squad maxes out at 4, so it's always a small squad. That's not to say that the same 4 characters are always in there at the same time. It's a little different, we're very XCOM inspired, but it's a little different in that because we're so narrative focused, we don't have things like permadeath. You're not going to have to worry about that. Honestly, I would restart the mission every time one of my characters died. I was too attached to them. So essentially, if you're going to go through most of the game with these characters, and to me, from the narrative perspective, that's very important to connect with them and to feel like you're attached to them as their commander. So yeah, it's a cool experience when you do it like that.
Now, obviously, you've talked about narrative-driven, how much story is important to this game. Can you talk about the story that is sort of like, who are your characters? Who's your main character? Like, what's going on in this place?
Well, we have our main character, Corin, played by Will Wheaton. We're really excited to have him on cast. He's a cryptographer, a regular guy. He works actually in Santa Monica, believe it or not, at a fictional company. He's just doing his job, and all of a sudden, very kind of similar to the opening scene in The Matrix, some people essentially come up and they're going to grab him. He doesn't know why, he doesn't know what for, and he gets a phone call from this mysterious female character named Val, who's played by Ashley Birch. And she's a little weird and she's a little quirky, but she says, you need to leave now.
Just like the real Ashley Birch.
Yeah, well, we did cast her for a reason.
He's never done this before. He's a cryptographer. 0 combat experience. You're gonna have to get him out of this. Bringing up your command interface now.
So essentially the first mission is kind of, you're Val's compatriot, you're kind of her tactical backup in a way. So you're helping Corin to escape from there, and he's very angry, he doesn't know why this is happening, and eventually, as the game progresses, you meet up with this character Miranda, who, as you saw Miranda, she's kind of a double agent, helping Corin for her own mysterious reasons. We have Grace, who's kind of on a revenge kick, and we have a mysterious British gentleman named Syl. They all kind of join up, and they all have their unique individual motivations and reasons for helping. And as the game goes on, you find out why these people were coming for Corrin, why Val called him, who Val is, what's going on, and kind of it gets into some serious sci-fi territory with some major twists and some, I'm a big Lost fan. I love that stuff. There's a lot of twists coming in, and I think people who really love complex narratives and character-driven stories are really going to love it. Sequence was our first game. It was released in 2011 on Steam, and it's a rhythm RPG game. So if you imagine like Guitar Hero fused with Final Fantasy or something like that. We did, it was basically me in my bedroom, and I contracted musician Ronald Jenkins, who's doing music for their C&EO as well, which is cool, and an artist, Wendy Chen, and I just spent like 3 years making this game. It's kind of, Puzzle Quest inspired in a way, because I saw like, oh, if RPG elements can be put on top of a match 3 puzzle game, then they could pretty much be put on top of anything. And I, being a huge DDR fan and all that, I decided to fuse the two. And it did really well, and people were big fans of the game. And a lot of people kind of wanted Sequence 2, and I was like, I don't know, I'm tired of coding that game. Maybe later. With their C&EO, however long the core experience ends up being, and it's looking right now maybe around the same kind of 4-hour length, that's what it's going to be. I want it to be a great 4-hour experience with no extra padding and no wasted time, and really go in and let the player enjoy it for the full length. And like some of the, Portal's a short game, but it's one of the best games of all time. So I think there's something to be said about that approach. Absolutely. We're pushing Steam first. That's our first priority. And that's going to be out in October, November this year, 2014. We've also announced PS1 or PS4 and Xbox One ports, not Xbox 4 and PS1. Those are going to be a little after the fact. Those are going to come probably a few months later, maybe February in 2015. All the versions are going to be great. I mean, if you're a Steam player, grab it on that. If you can wait a couple months, that's cool too. But yeah, it's going to be everyone's going to be able to get their hands on it.
That's perfect. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rob.